I wasn't on the guest list. In fact, my name was scratched out in red. My sister's wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of her life without me in it. My family said I was a disgrace. Said I didn't belong. So I stayed quiet for years. Until I couldn't anymore. They thought I'd never show my face again. But when I walked through those gates, I wasn't there for drama. I wasn't there for forgiveness. I came back in full uniform. With 4 stars on my shoulder. And something they never expected in my hands. I showed up at my sister's wedding thinking I could just exist, not be forgiven, not be embraced, just allowed to stand in the back, maybe, smile politely, leave quietly. Instead, the security guard didn't even blink. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sorry, ma'am, you're not on the list." I swallowed once. Slowly, my hands didn't tremble, but my chest felt like someone had pressed a concrete block against it. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the invitation. Embossed edges, gold lettering, my name printed, right there, except now. It wasn't just my name, it was my name crossed out, a thick red line, inked straight through the middle, not a smudge, not a printer error. A deliberate act. Someone had opened the invitation, taken a red pen, and made damn sure I knew I was not welcome. Behind me, I could hear the music drifting from the courtyard, chamber strings, a flute, laughter, the sound of a perfect celebration unfolding, without me, in front of me. The guard stared blankly, unbothered, unapologetic. To him, I wasn't a guest. I was a problem, a stain he was trained to keep off. The marble. I glanced at the crowd just beyond the hedges. Guests in pastel dresses. Men in tailored linen. A photographer snapping candids like memories were currency. A woman in pearls looked toward the entrance and then nudged her friend. Their eyes landed on me, and then narrowed. They recognized me, not as Madeline, not as Amanda's sister, but as that Madeline, the one who'd been dragged through the news 6 years ago, the one whose name became synonymous with betrayal, the disgraced officer, the national embarrassment, the punchline at military banquets. My mother, Diane Ross, once told a news anchor, "She no longer represents this family. We do not condone traitors." My little sister Amanda, then barely 24, wiped fake tears on national TV and whispered, "We haven't spoken in years." I wish her well, but we had to choose what's right. They never asked if I did it. They never wanted to know. But I didn't come to beg for a second chance. I didn't come to cry or protest. I came to end something. I turned from the gate. Walked a few paces down the cobblestone driveway, just far enough from the crowd, just out of frame. I paused under a magnolia tree, where the shadows were thick and the breeze smelled like champagne and roses. Then without ceremony, without words, I slipped off my coat. Underneath, pressed, military blues. Silver buttons. 4 stars embroidered on each shoulder, gleaming like justice in the late Charleston sun. The youngest 4-star general in modern U.S. history, the one they tried to erase. I stood there for a long moment, letting the wind touch my face, letting the whispers travel down the aisle like static. No one said my name. No one called for me, but I saw the ripple as heads began to turn. Eyes squinted, fingers pointed, and someone, somewhere, began to panic. But I didn't walk forward. One on trial. Not yet, because I wasn't there for reconciliation, not for cake, not for photos, and sure as hell not for Amanda. I was there to finish a war they thought they'd already won. And this time, I wasn't. I used to be the pride of our town. Every holiday parade, every Veterans Day ceremony there, I was. Front row in uniform, standing tall while neighbors clapped like I was their daughter too. Then one headline changed everything. Air Force major leaks intel to civilian systems. National breach suspected. I didn't even see it first. Amanda did. She texted me, "What the hell did you do, Mads?" I didn't reply. Because I didn't know what she meant. Because I hadn't done anything. Not a damn thing. I sat in my office at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs that morning, still in uniform, still believing I had a future. By nightfall, I was escorted out of the building by 2 men in suits who refused to look me in the eye. They took my badge, my clearance, my dignity. No charges, no trial, just silence. But the worst part wasn't the Air Force, it was my family, Diane Ross. My mother was on national television 3 days later, camera ready, spine straight, voice cold. "We raised our children to honor their country," she said. "But we do not condone betrayal. My daughter no longer represents this family." She didn't call, She didn't ask what happened. She chose the cameras. Amanda. She went on some afternoon talk show. Wore a white blouse. Cried just enough to look sympathetic. It's hard, she told the host. I still love my sister. But I can't even say her name anymore. Say it. Madeline. Say it, Amanda. But she didn't. Not once. I tried to call. Voicemail. I tried again. Blocked. Overnight. I went from war hero to national disgrace. Friends disappeared. Colleagues went radio silent. One sent a single line. I've been advised not to contact you further. It was like I had died. But worse, because I was still alive to feel it. I sold my condo. Packed my uniforms into a trunk. Got in my car and drove west until my gas card maxed out. I ended up in a dusty town outside Durango, Colorado. Nobody asked questions. I didn't offer answers. I rented a room over a body shop. Washed trucks by day. Fixed motorcycles by night. Let the grease cover me like armor. I stopped looking in mirrors. Stopped checking the news. Stopped being her Major Madeline. Ross was gone. And for a while, I was okay with that, until one morning, 6 years later, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. Knuckles on wood. Someone knocking at the garage door. I wiped oil off my hands. Opened it slowly. There, standing in the sunlight, was a man in uniform, tall, clean-cut, sharp eyes, and the voice. Firm, familiar. Major Ross. My breath caught. No one had called me that in years. I hadn't heard that name. Major Rosin, 6 years. But when Colonel Thomas McAllister stood in the doorway of that grease-stained garage, I knew this wasn't just a visit. This was something bigger. He didn't waste time. Madeline, we need you, he said, stepping inside. Off book, no name, no uniform, no trace. You'd be working directly under a division that doesn't officially exist. I crossed my arms. Why me? His gaze didn't waver. Because I don't believe you did it. And I still trust what you're capable of. That stopped me. Mick Allister had been my CO. Hard as steel, never gave compliments. But always fair. He didn't show up without a reason. Still, I shook my head. I'm not that person anymore. He nodded once, like he expected that answer. Before leaving, he pulled a flash drive from his pocket and set it on the counter. You're not the only one who vanished after that story broke, he said, but I kept watching and I kept digging. Then, he left. That night, I turned on the TV in my room above the garage for the first time in months, and there she was, Amanda. On stage, accepting an award at a military charity gala. Hair perfect. Dress flawless. Voice rehearsed. Honoring my family's deep commitment to service, she said. Especially my sister, whose strength continues to inspire me. My stomach turned. They erased me, then wore my legacy like a trophy. That's when I knew. I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I called McAllister the next morning. I'm in, I said. Tell me where to start. First mission, Jordan, a defense contractor named Dr. Ellis Monroe, had been captured while on assignment. Intel said he was just a mid-tier analyst, but when we reached him, he shoved a USB drive into my hand with trembling fingers. If I don't make it, he rasped, this can't disappear. I tucked it into a secure pocket, and we got him out. Back at the safe house, I decrypted the drive on a secure laptop. I expected codes, maybe blueprints. What I found was betrayal. Folders labeled Marshall Tech, internal routes, asset, laundering, signal ghosting reports. At first, I didn't see the connection. Then I saw his name. Lucas Hayes, CEO of Marshall Tech, Amanda's fiancé, the man who smiled like a Kennedy and charmed every interview with clean-cut confidence. And then, I froze. Asterisk, one of the transaction approvals was signed with a familiar signature. Mine, Madeline Ross, same rank. Same service ID, same clearance code revoked. Years ago. They weren't just laundering money. They were using my name to do it. I never applied for a military family scholarship. But the paperwork said I did, and Amanda got it. I was digging through archived documents from a secure military database, looking for anything tied to the forged transaction Lucas Hayes had approved. That's when I found a funding record I didn't recognize. Department of Defense, Education Fund. Recipient, Amanda Ross. Application, signed by Madeline Ross. Status, approved. Reason, child of a disabled veteran. Asterisk, except I'm not dead. And I never signed that form. I zoomed in on the scanned document. The signature was close. Too close. My service ID, my rank, My credentials. All forged. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Asterisk, asterisk, they didn't just cut me out of their lives. They used me. Amanda got a full ride to an elite private college. On a scholarship meant for children of fallen soldiers. Paid for by my service record. And my mother Diane Ross. She was listed as the contact on file. The same woman who'd gone on national TV 6 years ago and called me a disgrace. Now collecting financial benefits from my name behind closed doors. I sat, in the dark, staring at the screen. Not angry. Not shocked. Just cold. Cold in a way that told me there was no coming back from this. The next morning, I made a secure call to the bureau. An agent named Cal Weaver took my file. He didn't ask if I was ready. He just said, "We've been expecting something like this. You're not the only one they tried to bury." I uploaded the documents, including the forged scholarship application, along with the financial trail I'd tracked. They needed time. I could give them that. But Lucas Hayes wasn't waiting. That same week, he stood on stage in Washington, D.C., smiling beside senators and defense executives, accepting a plaque that read, "Marshall Tech, trusted partner of national security." I watched the press conference from my hotel room, fists clenched around the glass of water I never drank. He talked about integrity, service, and honoring those who protect us. And Amanda. She stood beside him, smiling like the world was hers. I had no seat at their table, but they built the table on my bones. Some betrayals come with shouts and slammed doors. Others come with silence, so thick, it chokes you. Ryan Novak had been silent for 6 years, but now, he was standing in front of me, holding a flash drive in one hand and guilt in the other. We met at a quiet diner off Route 17. He looked older, tired. "Haunted Madeline," he said, sliding the drive across the table. I didn't know if this would ever matter, but now I think it does. I didn't speak. I just took it. Back at my motel, I played the file. It was a grainy recording, probably captured on a field mic left running by accident, but the voices were clear. They paid me. The voice belonged to Private Alan Voss, a soldier from my old unit. One who vanished from the records right after my case exploded. "Marshall Tech wired the money, said the brass needed someone to blame. They picked her. Told me to run the wrong protocol, let it trace back to her login. She won't recover, they said. Just take the deal." My throat closed. I'd suspected it for years, but hearing it confirmed was like a blade sliding out of a wound that never stopped bleeding. I turned the file over to Agent Weaver. Within 48 hours, the Bureau linked the wire transfer to a shell account under Marshall Tech. Lucas Hayes' signature was on the approval. That wasn't all. The Bureau had been building a case quietly, but this recording, it blew the lid off. Lucas wasn't just laundering money, he was orchestrating setups, manipulating contracts, falsifying defense certifications, and using people like me as scapegoats. I thought I'd feel relief, but all I felt was clarity. 3 days later, a quiet ceremony took place at a secure military compound in Maryland. There was no press, no cameras, just a table, a folder, and a single sentence. "You are hereby promoted to General United States Air Force. 4 stars. They glimmered in the quiet not as a gift, but as a reckoning. I didn't smile, I didn't cry, but something inside me finally exhaled. That night, I checked into a quiet hotel near Charleston. Waiting for me at the front desk was a cream envelope. My name was printed on it in looping gold script, "Amanda and Lucas cordially request your absence," at the bottom, in red ink. "Please do not attend." No apology, no explanation, just another erasure. Another slash across my existence, but this time, I wasn't going to disappear. I'd forgiven them once, maybe twice. This time, they were going to see me. Chap 6. I walked into the wedding without an invitation. Some people walked down the aisle. I walked down the center of that garden like a storm wearing 4 stars. No invitation, no permission, just truth, and the weight of every lie they ever told about me. The guests turned, gasped, and fumbled for their phones. My boots clicked against the stone path like a countdown. The air was thick with champagne, money, and fear. Margaret Ross, my mother, stood near the fountain, frozen in a navy silk dress that didn't blink as I approached. Amanda clutched her bouquet so tightly the stems bent. Lucas stood beside her in a tailored tux, confident and polished, until he saw what was in my hand. A small black USB drive. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. "This," I said calmly, "is a recording of a private confession. A soldier paid off by Marshall Tech. There's a wire transfer trail, a forged login protocol, and Lucas Hayes's digital signature. The crowd went silent. Lucas's smirk cracked. Amanda shook her head, her voice breaking. You're lying. You're always twisting things. You never could let me have my moment. I turned to the wedding videographer. You're recording, right? Good. Make sure this part's clear. I reached into my lapel and tapped a tiny pin. A red light blinked to life. Then I hit play. From the speakers clipped inside my uniform, a voice echoed. We should have pushed the transfer through Dubai first. Damn thing got flagged fast. Lucas's voice. Undeniable, there were gasps. Someone dropped a wine glass. Amanda's lips parted, but no sound came out. Then came the sound no one was ready for. Sirens, low, sharp, approaching fast. And from the edge of the estate, two sleek black SUVs turned onto the stone driveway. The vehicles screeched to a halt, and a team in Navy windbreakers stepped out. FBI. The letters glinted in the Charleston. Son, my job was done now, it was Justice's turn. Lucas Hayes was on the ground, pinned beneath 3 agents in full tactical gear. His tuxedo was wrinkled, his cufflinks lost in the chaos. Guests began backing away from the reception tent, phones out, recording everything. Gasps, echoing like broken glass. Amanda stood frozen under the arch of silk flowers, still gripping, her bouquet, like it might shield her from the truth unraveling around her. And me. I stood tall in the center of it all, 4 stars gleaming under the Carolina sun. Not a single wrinkle on my uniform. Every eye followed me. Some whispered, others stared. No one looked away. A man in uniform stepped forward from the crowd. I recognized him, General Clarence, retired, once a mentor to my father. He extended his hand with respect, not pity. I read about you. Knew they buried something. Never thought I'd see the truth come to light like this. I nodded once. Took 6 years. Amanda finally moved. She stepped down from the altar, her heels clicking unevenly against the stone. Her hands trembled as she approached, mascara trailing like ghosts beneath her eyes. Madeline, ... Her voice cracked. I didn't know. I didn't think it would get this far. I didn't answer. I looked her in the eye. Do you remember the motel outside Boulder? She froze. I almost ended everything there. That's what your silence did. What Mom's silence did. You didn't just walk away. You erased me. Amanda's lip quivered. I didn't mean you did. I cut her off, my voice even but cold. And now you mean to save face. That's different. From the side, our mother Diane Ross stood still, one hand gripping her clutch like it was the only solid thing left in her world. Her pearls were askew, her mouth slightly open, but no words came. I turned to face her. You said I didn't represent this family. That I was a disgrace. But I carried the flag while you carried shame in your silence. She blinked slowly. I thought I was protecting Amanda. Protecting what was left. No, I said. You were protecting your illusion, not your daughter. The FBI began moving in tighter, collecting devices, separating guests. The reception was over. No speeches, no dancing, no toasts. Before I left, I noticed a little girl near the end of the aisle, maybe 8 years old, staring up at me with awe. She wore a pale yellow dress, her hands clutched around a discarded rose. I walked over, kneeled, slowly, and unclipped one of the silver stars from my shoulder. I placed it gently into her palm. You don't need anyone's permission to be powerful, I told her softly. But use it better than they did. Her eyes sparkled as she whispered, I want to be like you. No, I smiled. Be stronger. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and walked back through the garden. The murmurs followed. That's her. The sister, someone whispered. No, not just the sister. That's General Madeline Ross. No one stopped me, no one dared. I passed the champagne table where I once wasn't welcome. The chairs now empty, the cake untouched. My footsteps echoed louder than any of their speeches ever did, and as I stepped beyond the estate gates, the wind lifted just enough for my voice to carry one final truth. I don't need your apology, I don't need your love, but you will see me now. 3 weeks passed. I was staying in a quiet coastal cabin just outside Big Sur. No cameras, no medals, just the sound of waves slamming against the rocks and the occasional seagull crying overhead. The world had gone quiet, and for once, it felt okay. Then the letter came, no return address, just my name, handwritten across a cream envelope. Simple, clean, hesitant, Inside. One piece of paper. A single line in Amanda's familiar cursive. I'm sorry, truly. No excuses, no follow-up, no number to call. Nothing to fix. It wasn't a bridge, it wasn't closure. But it was something. And I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because for once, I didn't need to. 2 days later, I got a call from Agent Weaver. General Ross, he said, still felt strange hearing it out loud. We'd like to bring you in. For what? We're launching a joint task force, he replied. Organized cybercrime, government contractors, military fraud. We want you as a civilian advisor. With your background, you'd lead more than an investigation. You'd set the tone. I didn't answer right away. Because deep down, I already knew. I wasn't done. Washington, D.C. Pentagon Briefing Room. Colonel Thomas McAllister met me outside the West Wing. Same uniform, same steel in his spine. But when he looked at me, something had shifted. You're not the soldier I trained, he said. I raised a brow. No. He smiled, small and proud. No. You're the commander I never got to serve under. We didn't shake hands. We didn't have to. Respect between warriors doesn't need words. Later that week, I stood at the edge of a cliff in California, wind roaring around me like applause from the ocean. In my hands, a small velvet box. I opened it slowly. Inside, 4 silver stars, worn, scarred, shined 100 times by now. Each one carried 6 years of silence. 6 years of being erased.